Aaron Banks is one of the people who bankrolled UKIP, and he's written a piece pointing out that there's a poll of 509 adults conducted in Clacton by a company called Survation. He's done it. And this has concluded that Mr. Farage would definitely win by quite a significant percentage over the current Conservative MP, should he stand for reform. And this is to challenge, or I suppose persuade, Nigel Farage that he can still do it even with the first past the post system. It's trying to encourage, I suspect it's trying to encourage him to consider getting into Parliament as soon as possible. He says that Britain is broken and the vast majority of people in this country are sick and tired of politics, the army of politicians running the country. Well, it doesn't seem that politicians are running the country. The country seems to be run by a lot of quangos, and politicians seem very incapable of dealing with the problems that are presented. He talks about the latest scandal, the postmasters, the sub-postmaster scandal, the Horizon scandal, but this is an old scandal. And it's just that people have now noticed it. But it's old. And our solution to this scandal is, again, to look at old solutions. What we need to do today is to focus on a modern solution and an alternative. Now, that may not be Farage, but equally it may not be Starmer, and it may not be Rishi Sunak. It may be something else entirely. I think the idea of PR is something which is gathering momentum again for the first time, really, since the mid-1970s, when I remember people were very enthusiastic about it, mostly because it was sort of promoted by the Liberal Party, who looked set on a revival. The Liberal Party now looks very much not set on a revival because of its current leader. But is it a possibility that there could be a multiplicity of parties in the UK? And similarly, is there a possibility that there could be a multiplicity of media, a multiplicity of television channels? I think when you look at the power of the ITV drama Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, you realise how important terrestrial television actually is in practice. No matter how much people say, oh, it's all about social media, terrestrial channels are dead. Well, no, not if you look at the power of that TV drama. Terrestrial channels are far from dead. This is why I think things like GB News and Talk TV, although in their current form they are biased in favour of parading Nadine Dorries and Lee Anderson and Farage and various other individuals, but they are essentially a very good idea. The more television channels we can have to access, the better our opportunity to communicate, the better our opportunity to encourage debate, to encourage a conversation. And a conversation is really all we need. What we're getting instead, because of the fractured nature even of these little attempts to batter the monolithic system, what we're getting is just slogans. And a television channel which is simply beating out the same slogans again and again, well, it might just well be replaced by a cipher. Talk TV and GB News have such potential, and they are failing to realise that. In the same way, so many extra newspapers are failing to take off. I think the only newspaper which I think stands any chance of a future is Byline Times, which is doing something very interesting, cutting between the debate in The Spectator and the New Statesman. And meanwhile, which newspaper has proved to be doggedly useful, doggedly uh, proud of its journalistic credentials? Private Eye, which I have copies of Private Eye going back to the early 1970s, late 1960s. I have them filed upstairs and on a shelf, and I think the articles are fascinating, the cartoons are fascinating, the balance between satire and serious journalism is extraordinary. And when I look at the past editions of the Times or the Telegraph or the Guardian, in so many ways it's predictable, and you think there has to be something more. These little people, the little people need an opportunity. Now, if the little people need to be represented by Farage, all well and good, as long as this ushers in other people. Sadly, I don't think it will do. But the idea of breaking the political consensus, of breaking that two-party system, I think that would be a positive.